So what's the deal? Is Chris Jones going to play football tonight, or is he going to be sitting on the sidelines or sitting at home on his couch with the rest of us? What's going on there? Good morning. Happy Thursday. Of course, the Chiefs are opening up the NFL season tonight, and it is going to be a good one. Out at Arrowhead Stadium, Detroit Lions, of course, the Super Bowl champs, are always the ones who open up the following season, and that's going to be the case tonight right here in Kansas City. So an exciting day to be here in town, and we are thrilled to welcome back Kendall Gammon 1 hour from now to get you set for tonight's action. That's going to be fun. But if you haven't seen it by now, yesterday it was right around noonish, lunchtime. Chris Jones, of course, Chiefs defensive star, shows up at the Ronald McDonald House helping out the kids and doing all the charitable stuff, and then ends up talking to the media because, he hasn't been to training camp. He hasn't been practicing. He hasn't been doing anything because he's got this stalemate going on with the Chiefs where he wants them to give a little more of a salary bump this year. The NFL contract stuff is very confusing, so I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. There's other places you can do that if you want to. But just know Chris Jones is basically of the attitude of he wants more money. He wants more money this year, and then he wants another couple of years added to that contract. That's the nuts and bolts of it. We'll let somebody else, do what they do on the deep X's and O's of NFL salaries and contracts, which are very complex. There's guaranteed money, then there's built-in bonuses and all these different things. It's not like, Major League Baseball, if you get a 3-year, $30 million deal, you're getting $30 million. In the NFL, that's not how it works. So Chris Jones finally decides he's going to talk about it yesterday, one day before the season starts. And I don't think it was a good idea for Chris Jones to do this. I'm watching this guy do this press conference in a parking lot. And by the way, his two agents are standing behind him. And Mark was filling me in. What are these guys? What are their names? Dumb and Dumber? No, that's
Dumb
not
and
it.
Dumber, the Katz brothers.
Dumb and Dumber, a.k.a. the Katz brothers. I mean, these guys look like cheesy knockoff agents from some C-list movie or TV series that's going to get canceled after one season. I mean, that's what they looked like. They looked like backup actors from The Sopranos or something like that.
I was say they're protégés of Saul. Better
yes.
call Saul, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that may be an insult to Saul, actually. I mean, they just looked like total cornballs. They were like half bodyguard, half cheesy attorney back there. They're standing in the back corner of the parking lot. Like, what are these guys doing? They were creeping me out.
Yeah, they were in the bushes, literally. Like the bushes were hanging out over the sidewalk where they were standing. I was like, hello.
So I guess as I understand it, according to Mark when we were talking yesterday, Chris Jones is their biggest client, right? Like, he's their big star.
Oh, yeah.
So they're probably trying to cash in as much as they can. Well, I thought they left their client out to dry yesterday, and I thought this whole press conference idea was very bizarre. It puts the athlete in a very tough spot. And here's a little bit of what Chris Jones was saying in the parking lot the day before the season starts in a game that he's probably not going to play in because he's got this contract dispute with the Chiefs.
Can't really talk about it. Hopefully it gets worked out. It's always been my goal to be a Kansas City Chiefs for life. I've said that multiple times on social media platforms, from interviews, and they know where my position is at, and hopefully we can get something worked out for the long term.
Been frustrating for you? And
Not at all.
Describe what it's been like.
It's been okay, peaceful for me. I've been in Miami, just training, staying focused, understanding that this is a process.
You miss your teammates though, and your guys. All the OTAs, mini camps, and all that stuff. You miss that part of it right now?
I've been keeping in contact with my teammates. I'm still working out every day, still doing similar things that they do in training camp. The camaraderie, we got a lot of new players. Miss that aspect of it, but I'll be ready to go when that time calls.
Chris, do you feel like you've let your teammates down at all? That's the criticism. That's the only criticism I've heard at all.
How? Man, that's what I got to ask. How have I let them down? It's just like when you're at a job and you ask for an extension, right? And you ask for a raise, right? You're not letting anyone down. Who are you letting down for asking your boss for a raise, right? So when you take the personal feelings out of it, you kind of can get it. All I'm doing is asking for a raise.
What's the plan for tomorrow for you? Are you going to watch the game?
I don't know yet, man. I don't know. I could be playing. I could be on the sideline. I don't know. We'll see tomorrow.
All right. That was Chris Jones, some of this press conference he did yesterday from a parking lot as he was talking to the media about whether or not he's going to be playing tonight in the game. And it seems impossible at this point that he will. But at the end, I thought it pretty interesting from Chris Jones at the end there. When he was asked, are you letting down your teammates? He goes, hey, man, I'm just asking for a raise. Well, that's not exactly what's going on here. Chris Jones does not want to play the final year of his contract. He wants a raise for this year on a contract that he had signed a couple of years back. And then he also wants 2 more years tacked on to the current deal to give him a nice pay raise and make him one of the highest paid players in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball. Now, he has every right to do that if he wants to. But the notion that this is like you or I walking into the boss's office saying, hey, can I get a little bump in pay here? Like, it's not apples to apples,
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, next year's a political, presidential year, all right? So I don't want my voice to be shot out here in 2023, so I need to raise this year so that I can get to next year for the presidential run.
Yes, that's a good analogy there, Mark. That's a pretty good way to line it up, John.
Oh, I'm just sitting there thinking when he's like, how? It's like, dude, you're not there.
Well, yeah.
It has nothing to do with you asking for a raise.
Yeah, you're not there.
That's a false equivalency there.
You are letting your teammates down. There's no doubt about it. Now, you may say it's worth it for you in the short term to do that, and you'll be back before long. That's fine, but there's no doubt you're letting your teammates down. They take the field tonight. You're not going to be there. And you may say, hey, I got to get mine. I got to get my bag, all those different. Okay, but you're still letting your teammates down. Both those things can be true. You can say, hey, I've got to get my money, and now's my time to do it. But you can still be letting your teammates down. And there's no doubt that Chris Jones is letting his teammates down. And, for a guy who says he wants to be a Chief for life, he's got a funny way of showing it. We're splitting hairs. Not that I'm not all for capitalism. I am. I want you to squeeze every penny you can based on your worth. I'm all for that. But, when we're talking about, do we get him the $27 million, $28 million a year? Is it 29? Can he hit 30? Now, if he can get the 30, great. I'd be happy for him if he can get the $30 million a year, Chris Jones. But to sit here and say, well, this is just you asking for a raise at your job. Yeah, not quite.
It's not as simple as just give him the money either, because next year we've got some of the younger guys coming up.
Well, that's
a Nick Bolton, a Snead.
Guys that got to get paid.
Rather have the younger guys, personally.
Than the guy who's, how old is Chris Jones now? Is he 30?
Almost 30, yeah.
Almost.
I mean, at that point, you're going downhill, right? When you're talking about NFL players at that position, by the way, not a quarterback, but at that position, you're paying for what was done in the past, not what a guy's going to do in the future, just like Tyreek Hill. And by the way, if there's one thing the Chiefs prove, and I give all the credit to the front office and Brett Veach for this, if they're willing to move off Tyreek Hill because they don't want to pay for what you've done, they want to pay you for what you're going to do, I think Chris Jones is harder to replace in many ways. But Brett Veach is not going to be sucked in by this, well, he's done so much for us. I just cross him to $30 million. In the NFL, you got a salary cap. You got to figure out a way to stay under it. And, I trust the front office as much as any in the NFL right now. So we'll see. I mean, is there any chance at this point that the guy's going to be on the field tonight, or is that an impossibility?
I guess if he signs, technically he could get on the field, but I don't think Andy would put him out there very much.
Well, I could see, too, he signs a $30 million a year deal, and then he blows out his hamstring tonight,
Well, he is under contract, so that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not like he has no contract.
Yeah, that's true. He's got a deal. Just show up tonight and play football, damn it. Jeez. Well, it'll be an interesting day to see how it all plays out. Of course, Travis Kelce also with that hyperextended knee, so that could make this game maybe a little more interesting than it needs to be. And a lot of people are hot on the Detroit Lions this year as well, believe it or not. So they're kind of a sneaky team to watch on the NFC side of things. Meantime, here in Kansas City, this came out yesterday. The rental market in this town is the hottest in the nation. You heard that right. What are the numbers? What is the year-over-year number for the Kansas City rental market? It is out of control. And how did we get here, and what do we do about it? We'll get to that coming up next on KCMO. Kansas City's rental market is completely out of control. 16.17% is the jump, according to research from Rent.com, that this town saw in year-over-year monthly rental costs. I never thought I'd see it, right? I mean, think about all the places around this country that have seen red-hot markets as of late. Nashville, Miami, Orlando, Charlotte, Austin, Texas. I mean, the list goes on. Phoenix, Denver. The list goes on, right? In terms of markets that have been red hot for some of them a very long time, 5 to 10 years, some of them just over the last 2 to 3. But when you see Kansas City with the hottest rental market year over year in the country, there's always something next, right? There's always, all right, if Nashville and Austin and Denver and all these places are overdone, where else are people going? Where's their next spot? It appears like Kansas City might be one of them, for better or for worse. So yesterday, KCTV5 did this story, and they talked to a realtor here in town, Stacy Curtis, to figure out what the heck's been going on. She's been in real estate here in town for 17 years. Well, I want to play some of this clip from KCTV5 as they try to dig into how Kansas City has become, according to Rent.com, the hottest rental market in the nation with the most significant yearly increases anywhere in the country.
We have not seen anything like this. There was kind of the crash in 2008. This is a totally different being.
She blames the spike on lack of inventory and skyrocketing construction costs. In her case, she's also seen a lot of people buying homes, then turning them into rentals, cashing in on these high rates.
We're seeing the increase translate here in Prairie Village specifically.
So when can we expect a cool down in rental rates across the metro?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I have no idea when or if it will come down.
All right. Well, no one can predict that. And frankly, I don't think it is coming down. As long as supply remains relatively tight, rental rates are going to keep increasing. There's just no other way around it. That's just basic economics in terms of how things work, right? But what I thought was interesting there is one thing that was admitted by the realtor, that she's seen a lot of people buy homes and then turn them into rentals. And that happened a lot during COVID-19, right? You had this record low interest rate environment. You had people flush with cash because the government was handing out cash like peanuts. People weren't going on vacations. They weren't traveling. So some people said, you know what? And they were bored. Some were, reevaluating their careers. So what did they do? They were like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to start, buying homes and renting them out and building a little real estate portfolio. Now, as I've noted many times over, I'm all about capitalism. But here's the problem in this specific case. The government created this problem through its COVID policy. The government caused this issue by shutting down an economy, by handing out checks left and right, by driving interest rates into the ground because they thought they had to, because they destroyed the economy. And one of the things that came out of that was obviously this real estate boom. And not only were people who were trying to buy homes for their families, competing against a lot of folks, you also had them competing against individuals who just wanted to buy the home to then rent it out to somebody, right? So you have people sitting on massive real estate portfolios, and those people who want to buy homes are priced out of the market right now. So to me, this is another thing, another problem that we're dealing with here in the wake of COVID, and it will reverberate for a very long time. The housing market is screwed for quite some time. I mean, I'm sure I could do a full hour of calls, maybe not in the 6 a.m. hour, but I could do a full hour of calls on people who are just trying to get into the real estate market. And I mean, like, buy a house for their families right now. And they can't do it. Rates are high. Prices are still, I believe, too high based on where rates are at. I've seen some people say prices are coming down a little bit in the purchasing side of things, but they're still awfully high. 913-408-7710 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. Say hi to Eli. He is in Blue Springs. What's up, Eli? Good morning.
Hey, how you doing, Pete? Yeah, I just wanted to comment on this subject. I moved in. I've lived in the townhomes over in Blue Springs. I moved in there in 2019. Got on a pretty good deal. Rent was $750, and it was like that for a while. Then 2020 happened, and about at the end of that, they sold. I want to say maybe December 2020, beginning of 2021, and the new company who now is running the townhomes has raised my rent from $750. Then it went to $825, then it went to $875, and then I just got the letter in the mail. Next month, I'm going to have to start paying $910.
So you're up about 21% over the last 2.5 years in rent.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, are you getting better service for it? Is the place any nicer or no?
The big storms a couple of weeks back, maybe a month or so ago, knocked all the fences down, and they're still haven't been put up. I don't call the landlords. I try not to rely on them at all. I just do everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
And just you don't talk to them. There's no problems. You know.
Yeah. I mean, did you get any any nice amenities out of that increase or anything like that, or no?
No, the parking lot's still kind of trash, and nothing.
Gosh, man. Well, that's case in point right there, Eli. I appreciate you chiming in on this one, man.
Yeah, it's hard out here. I wish some politicians start making some good moves.
Yeah, thank you, Eli. Appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend. I mean, that's case in point. $750 to $910 over 2.5 years for Eli there in Blue Springs. And it doesn't sound like Eli's exactly, living high in the hog based on what he said there. He's doing his own work. He's fixing the place up himself when he needs to. He's not relying on the landlords, and the parking lot's still a mess, according to him. But the rent keeps going up. And by the way, that's one of the downsides of inflation too, right? One of the downsides of inflation is that it becomes a way for whether it's landlords, whether it's businesses, whether it's McDonald's, it doesn't matter. It gives them an excuse to raise prices, even if they don't have to, by the way. Well, inflation, right? Oh, boy, how about that inflation? That's one of the things that the Fed has been trying to suppress and do it very quickly. Because if not, if we just live in an environment where every year it's like another 5 to 10% on life in general, well, that's going to create a permanent underclass and a large underclass very quickly in this country. 913-408-7710. And you wonder if some politicians want that, by the way, as sick as that is. News coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll get to more of you. Along with this, speaking of rental properties, a 4-year-old was shot at a rental property in town. We'll tell you where next. Well, how about this? Overland Park mother, think about this. You're out with your 4-year-old outside of your rental unit, and somebody starts firing a gun at you. And by the way, this is not in what you would traditionally consider a rough part of town, per se. This is in Overland Park, right? But hey, yeah, you keep doing you there, City Council. Keep rolling through. Keep building as many apartment complexes as you guys can. Please, do us all a favor. I know we're all dying for more of those in Overland Park. Jeez. So this was at Stone Ridge Apartments. It is kind of right at the intersection of Highway 69 and I-35, kind of in the southeast corner of that intersection where it all comes together, kind of where the old radio station used to be up there in Mission, but it's technically Overland Park. So the story here, I mean, this is just crazy. Overland Park mother and her 4-year-old son were shot at as many as 5 times. It happened after she confronted someone for speeding in the apartment complex parking lot. Police are still looking for the suspect. Now, Fox 4 was on the story, and here's part of what they reported last night.
And this happened last night. Were you scared?
Yeah.
A 4-year-old still traumatized, and a mom wondering why someone would do something like this.
And immediately, bullets were firing.
It all took place here at the Stone Ridge Apartments. Hannah Young outside playing with her son when a car sped through the parking lot, something she says happens too often. Young yelled for them to slow down. When the car came back through, once again speeding, she threw water in the direction of the car. That's when the person slowed down, pulled out a gun, and started firing.
It was just fight or flight. He was right by that light post, and I just took off running. And I just said, Nico, run.
Him taking a firearm, just shooting at a random mother and child, that's ridiculous.
That's Overland Park Police there at the very end. Fox 4 was on the story. If you Google Stone Ridge Apartments, it's not, a bad place, right? If you look at it, I mean, the pricing is not cheap. You're looking at about, it looks $1,100, what I'm seeing here, for a one-bedroom. $1,069. A nicer one-bedroom, one-bath is almost $1,200. You get a two-bed, two-bath for almost $1,400. And you got this kind of stuff happening in the parking lot. Somebody speeding. Lady's like, hey, stop speeding. She throws water at his car. Not sure I would be doing that in today's social environment that we live in where everybody's lost their minds. But either way, she does it, and then this individual pulls a gun out of the car and fires it 5 times at him, at this mother with her 4-year-old, just kind of playing in the front lawn of the apartment complex that they live in Overland Park, of all places, right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that when people say, hey, we just need to build some more multifamily and they're going to be really nice, don't worry. What always happens, right? Even a place like this that looks halfway decent. Not the nicest I've seen, but it's not terrible. A new one gets built, and that one's nicer. And then what happens to the old one? The old one starts to, show its age. People want to live in the new one. They don't want to live in the older one anymore. Now, here's the difference between that and, when you're buying a home that's older. The difference is when you buy a place, theoretically, you've got skin in the game. So even if it's an older home, and frankly, I think older homes are often nicer than what they build these days. In the older homes, you still have pride in something because for most people, their home is their largest asset. They're sitting on an asset that is worth at least, a couple $100,000 to several $100,000 to millions of dollars. So you're going to take care of it. You're going to have pride. But the more that these communities, whether it's Overland Park, Kansas City, Olathe, Lee Summit, Liberty, wherever, the more they say, hey, don't worry, we're building a new apartment complex, but it's going to be really nice. What happens to the old ones? They get less nice. People don't care about the upkeep. They're rental properties, right? That's how it goes. I've experienced this firsthand in my community. They're building, rental units by us. And the city was like, oh, well, these are going to be the best in town. Yeah, until you build a new one 2 miles down the road, and that's the best in town, geniuses. And then people want to live in that one instead of the one that was the best in town. That's always how it goes. And then these apartment complexes, they get worse. They get run down. They don't attract the same clientele that they did when they were opening, and around we go. Whereas the more single-family homes you build, what happens there? Well, the homes might get older, and yes, that might be less appealing to some people, but as long as they are purchased properties that people invest in, that people want to be a part of, there's going to be value there. The value is going to hold, and people are going to care. And it's going to maintain its value to a certain extent. That's not the case with these apartment complexes. 913-408-7710 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. Pete, the news didn't describe the suspect. What gives? I don't know. I don't have any answer on that from Fox 4. Pete, old parts of Overland Park are not what they used to be. Yeah, trust me, we used to work up there. I understand that in certain parts of old Overland Park. But it doesn't have to be that way. That's the thing. It does not have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. It's become that way in part because of how the government and how the city councils have developed these towns and what they've done to these places. That's part of the problem. That's also the text line, by the way, 913-408-7710. To join us at 642 on a Thursday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. I mean, it's a darn shame. It does not need to be this way. It doesn't. And the government here locally is not helping the cause at all because all these city councils want to do is just build the new hot apartment complex. Oh, great. And now you got 4-year-olds getting shot at, by the way, at old apartment complexes that I'm sure were nice at some point. But now, not so much anymore. Let's say hi to Sandy, who is in Independence. Hello, Sandy. Good morning. You're on KCMO.
Hi. I was just listening to you about the housing and the houses and the apartments and things, and everything you said is correct. The only thing I just found out in December when I had to move because of a breakup, it was easier for me to qualify to buy a house than it was to qualify to rent an apartment. And fortunately, I had good credit, but I also ended up in a house that really is the payments are more than I can comfortably afford. And I just got caught up in this tax property mess also. But the housing in the area is not like it used to be. It's not affordable for these people. And with the economy and COVID and our stupid, crazy government, people are losing their homes, and they're ending up in apartments. And it's just, I don't know what we're supposed to do because we're not San Francisco or New York, not that we would want to be. Mm-hmm. But it's just really crazy. And I learned, and I've been humbled this last couple of years learning how these people are really having a hard time finding an affordable place to live in. And they're ending up in these apartments and putting their stuff in storage because they can't afford anything else. It's crazy. And this is not Missouri and Kansas should not be like this because we are the Midwest and we should be affordable. But the police also need to be doing something, about this and put them in jail and prosecute them. If they catch this person, I hope they don't let them go.
Yeah.
But like I said, I feel bad for these people that are trying to live in something affordable that doesn't have roaches crawling down them and some of the things we're seeing on television.
Yeah.
So an $1,100 for a one-bedroom apartment, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I hope we can get back to our regular being Midwest and being affordable and being good people again.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, thank you, Sandy, you would think that at $1,100, $1,200 a month for a one bed, you'd have a pretty nice place there. But that's not what's going on in parts of town. And that ties back to the story from earlier in the show that shows Kansas City right now saw the highest increase year over year in rental prices of any city in the country. Talking about the metro at large, not Kansas City in particular. 16.17%. That's unbelievable. And for $1,100, you still might get shot at. Your 4-year-old might get shot at in the parking lot. I mean, as the father of a 4-year-old, I mean, that just, it breaks your heart. It makes you mad. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And in large part, what you're seeing here is the government doing a great job destroying the American dream for millions of Americans, and that is home ownership. 913-408-7710, 645. Maybe that's how some of them want it. I don't know what else to say. Meantime, in another part of town, a judge has ruled that what the people want to vote on, well, that's not good enough. Nope, can't be doing that. A judge is getting in the way of the will of the people. We'll tell you whether it's happening here in Kansas City. Then we've got Kendall Gammon, top of the hour, get you set for the Chiefs season coming up on KCMO. Been a heavy first hour on the state of housing in Kansas City after, these stories all weave together in many ways. You've got the rental market in Kansas City up almost 17% year over year. That's the highest in the nation. It's not New York. It's not San Francisco. It's not Austin, Texas. It's not Nashville. It's not Denver. It's here in our backyard. And then on top of that, at an apartment complex, you got a 4-year-old getting shot at, along with the mother, at, by the way, a decent part of town. It's not like it's a, slum housing or anything at the Stone Ridge Apartments in Overland Park. So, this stuff all comes together. And then we've got another story here I'll get to on how a judge in the Kansas City area is getting in the way of the will of the people. So that's coming up in a couple of minutes on KCMO Talk Radio. John's in Blue Springs. He's been waiting. What's up, John? Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I wanted to mention, all this stuff ties together. You can talk about government spending. You can talk about taxation. You can talk about the lack of police officers. You can talk about the
Yes.
crappy prosecutors and sentencing guidelines. If you can't keep these places safe, this is going to happen. And we know poverty and crime go together. I mean, people that own investment property don't arbitrarily raise prices of rent. This is caused by taxation and by inflation of the government. I mean, it's simple math. So people should know, and the people affected the most are people that quote-unquote rent. People should know that when they go to the ballot box, you're directly saying, I want to be impoverished. I want to pay more for groceries. I want to pay more for rent. I want to pay more for utilities. The left is on the wrong side of this in every facet, and people continue to vote for these morons. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Well said there, John in Blue Springs. You know, you're right. And to be somewhat sympathetic, by the way, to what he's pointing out, whether it's landlords of rental properties or apartment complexes, yes, if their property taxes do keep going up, courtesy of your local government that wants to keep growing and growing and growing and growing, then this is part of what you're going to end up with. They're going to pass on that cost. So, you know, you're going to pay for it, whether you're a homeowner or not on the property tax front. Bill in Osborne. Go ahead, Bill. Good morning.
Morning, Pete. How are you?
I'm well, Bill.
I'm a little concerned about the real estate market in that I don't know how to correct it without having some type of recession that increases the supply of units to bring down the price. And I don't think we can stand that. I mean, I don't think we could stand the recession after the government inflation. And it would really be painful. And yet you've got to somehow increase the supply so that it brings the price down. And I just don't know how it's done. So,
well,
anyway.
There's no, Bill, I agree. Like in 2008, you think about the recession, right? And what that did, and it kind of reset the housing market after that bubble. I don't think we're in that moment right now because of what you're saying. You have a double-edged sword here where demand is very high for a lot of reasons. People are fleeing, you know, downtown environments in major American cities. Millennials are starting to get on their feet finally and have kids and want space and live in homes. And then supply is not keeping up. Part of that was because it wasn't keeping up during COVID. Construction costs are high. You can't find people to do the work. I mean, I'm trying to get a little bit of work done in my house, and it's been, you know, months of trying to get somebody out. It's crazy. So it is this perfect storm where I agree with Bill. You may have a recession here next year. You may not. I don't know. But even if you do, I don't think the housing market per se is going to see some massive reset of what you saw 15 years ago. Plus, you know, you just had over the last 2.5 years under the president, 6-7 million people just show up in the country that we know of? Where are they living? Now, meantime, in Prairie Village, you've heard us talk about the Stop Rezoning Prairie Village group that is trying to make it so the city council is not just willy-nilly changing zoning laws and, you know, trying to get some of these apartment complexes jammed in and all these different things, right? Well, yesterday, a Johnson County judge, rejected 2 petitions, approved 1 petition that can go in front of the voters in Prairie Village this November. Her name is Judge Rhonda Mason, and she decided the Stop Rezoning Prairie Village petition will not be allowed on the November ballot. The petition called for a city ordinance to limit rezoning that would allow more than one family to live on a lot in a single-family residential zoning district. She also rejected a petition that sought to abandon the city's current form of government, basically shrinking the amount of city council members they have. Mason said a third petition calling to adopt a mayor-council-manager form of government does comply with the law. So you have a judge. So the Stop Rezoning Prairie Village group, they did what they had to do. They got all the signatures they needed. The signatures were confirmed as legitimate. And now after the city said, no, we question all of this, a judge has gotten in the way of the will of the people to allow this to go to a vote in Prairie Village in November on these issues. All this group is asking for is for the people to decide on the future of their own community. Let the people decide. Instead, the city of Prairie Village, with the help of a judge in Johnson County, is preventing the will of the people to decide the future of their city. That's what's going on. And that's another reason that these local elections matter far more than anybody gives them credit for and anybody talks about outside of this show. Man, oh man. I mean, these are the kind of feel-good stories that it'd be nice if the media told once in a while when it came to law enforcement in this town and, frankly, anywhere for that matter. KCPD put this up yesterday on its Facebook page, and I shared it to my Facebook page. We'll have Mark pop it on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook page as well. That way you can look at it there. The story of Officer Richard Duchesne. 1 year ago yesterday, he saved the life of a 1-month-old. And the two are still together. They keep in touch. They keep in contact, courtesy of the family. So the story, Duchesne and his partner, Officer Charles Owen, saved 1-year-old Camilla's life when she stopped breathing due to RSV. Their body camera caught everything, and it, at the time, drew worldwide attention. Well, Camilla turns 1 year old this month, and her family has bonded with Officer Duchesne. So there's a picture that you'll see. Look it up on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook page. On the left side is a picture from last week when Duchesne took his family to the zoo, and he brought now 1-year-old Camilla with them. And then the picture on the right is from last year when Camilla is, I mean, she's a peanut. She's a month old, and she's in the hospital bed after the officer saved her life. And now she's 1. And by the way, since the media is obsessed with race in this country, I think it's also notable here that Officer Duchesne is a white guy and Camilla is a now 1-year-old beautiful black girl. And to put this into perspective, I mean, for all the talk, and by the way, there's media in this town that caters to certain demographics in Kansas City that rails against the police department. As if somehow they're the ones, opening fire at historic rates in Kansas City. They won't tell this story. Now, to the credit of Channel 9, KMBC, bit of a surprise, but Channel 9 actually, saw the story on the KCPD Facebook page and shared it with the headline, 1 year later, KCPD officer forges bond with baby girl he is credited with saving. And it goes on to tell the same story I just told you here, Channel 9, actually doing that. Now, over the Kansas City Star's dead body, would they ever, tell a story like this in the newspaper? But just know KCPD, and this is where the police departments around the entire country, including here in Kansas City, have to get smart. They've got to tell their own stories because nobody else is going to do it for them. The media's not going to look for feel-good police stories in this climate, in this culture. It's pathetic, it's sad, it's disgusting, but they're not going to do it. That's part of the reason we started the Back to Blue tour. Because we knew that stories like this were out there of law enforcement doing great work, new departments popping up, how they're, changing the way they go about their business in a 21st century environment. Those stories are out there. You just got to find the right people to tell them. So we're telling them on KCMO with things like the Back to Blue tour. Channel 9, to its credit, is at least seeing this story on Facebook from KCPD and doing a story on it. Woke 41 won't do it. Star, forget it. They won't do it. I mean, they're more likely to end up actually printing the paper here in Kansas City instead of Des Moines before they tell a story like this. But the social media, and that's where this role is an important role in modern American policing. Telling these stories through your social media profiles are important to do. And then trying to find media outlets in town who will further those stories and take those stories to the next level. That's what's got to happen here. And it's not going to happen in a month. It's not going to happen in a year. It's going to take a long time to get law enforcement back into the good graces of the American people. It's wrong, but that's how much damage has been done in a post-George Floyd America. 750,000 cops on the streets across this country, and one incident, along with a media narrative, destroyed it for potentially a generation. And now it's going to be a slow slog to get it back to where it needs to be. But this is the kind of stuff, and telling these stories, the 1 year later stories, that is smart marketing by KCPD, and credits some other local media for actually sharing that story. And this is a great example of how the men and women of law enforcement in this town and, for the most part around the entire country, wake up every day and help people and save lives. Not out there hunting. I wonder who I can shoot today. Like that narrative that has permeated local media and national media for the better part of 3 years is so gross on so many levels. And meantime, yesterday we had on the police chief, Stacey Graves, and if you missed it, she made a pretty damning admission about where local business is right now when it comes to the high crime in this town. Here's Stacey Graves yesterday on KCMO. Have you heard anything, whether it's complaints or others from owners down there, managers, anything like that, or has it been pretty quiet?
Our business community is frustrated. I would say that's even outside of Kansas City. When you have situations where, and I'll tell you what kind of like that goes down to is the lack of a city jail. We haven't had a city jail since 2018. I know that there's been recent conversations about that between the city and Jackson County, and now it looks like it's the potential for the city of having a standalone city jail is probably what may play out. I don't know. I'm not in those behind the scenes conversations, but that's a need for our city. And I know that a lot of people don't like that idea, and I am not for mass incarceration, but I am for certainty of consequences.
And that's a good way to put it for Chief Stacey Graves. I mean, it's sad to me she even has to say, I'm not for mass incarceration, but I guess you have to say it in 2023. But how crazy is that? That's the world we're in right now. If you say, I want bad guys in jail, but don't worry, I'm not for mass incarceration. I get why she's saying it. It's sad she has to say it, but I get why she's got to say it. Some of you on the text line are trying to guess where the mayor was, saying he was out east wrapping up a vacation. Pete, vacation out east? What's the mayor doing there? Mapping out his political future with East Coast consultants? That's on the text line. Well, I don't know where he was. He said he was in a state that has legal sports betting, so that could be New York, could be New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, D.C., of course. That might make a little more sense. It could be any of them. I don't think he was in Massachusetts. Not a lot of political firepower up there, unless you want to get in the good graces of the fake American Indian, Elizabeth Warren. Vermont doesn't have sports betting, so he wasn't up there. So we could play this game all day, try to figure out where he was.
Not Florida.
Nope, wasn't in Florida. I don't think he's getting lunch with DeSantis anytime soon. So, I don't know. Maybe he was just having a family trip. Who knows? Although he's cutting it close, trying to get back in time for kickoff. You're relying on Mayor Pete's, transportation system to get you home in time for the game. So that could be hit or miss. We'll have to see how that plays out. Very interesting. Now, speaking of the Goobers in Washington, D.C., Mitch McConnell, of course, Senate Minority Leader for the Republicans, he finally spoke yesterday for the first time since that freeze-up he had last week. Remember, it was the second time in a month that during a press conference, Mitch McConnell, 81 years old, U.S. Senator from Kentucky, just totally froze on the spot. It was scary. Now, you wish him a full recovery and everything like that, but it's like, gosh, another example of these geriatrics running D.C., and, you don't know what their health is going to be like the next day. So yesterday, McConnell gets asked about it, and he kind of poo-poos the whole thing.
You've had all these evaluations. What have doctors said is the precise medical reason for those two freeze-ups?
What Dr. Monahan's report addressed was concerns people might have that some things that happened to me did happen. Well, they didn't. And it's really, I have nothing to add to that. I think you pretty well covered the subject.
What? The things that happened to me didn't happen, and that's all I have to say about that? What does that mean?
Just reading off Biden's teleprompter. Seemingly.
What the things that happened didn't happen, the doctor said, and that's all I got to say about that, Jack.
Come on, man.
Jeez.
You know the thing.
The thing, man. Come on, yeah.
What are we talking about?
I mean, this is what we got. Across the aisle, this is what we got. I mean, it's just infuriating. If we're going to have a bunch of incompetent people that don't care about us, at least let them be, half the age of what they are, Sheesh. And the arrogance. Now, I will say this. In McConnell's defense, I will say this. If only the media was as interested in, Joe Biden's mental decline and mental faculties as they are Mitch McConnell's. So what's your doctor saying there, Mitch? I mean, with Joe, it's like, oh, boy, is this Joe okay? Make sure he's getting down the escalator all right. Make sure he walks down the ramp and doesn't. Whoa, watch the sandbag, Joe. Whoa, Chase.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, my goodness. Like, if only they had the same interest in Joe Biden's health that they do Republican leaders' health. I'm here to blast them both. I'm here to say, I agree, it's totally unacceptable. But I'm saying it for leaders in both parties, whereas the media is just like, oh, boy, Mitch, what's up with Mitch? It's like, guys, have you been watching the leader of the free world for the last 2.5 years?
Right. Sounds like Mitch consulted Karine Jean-Pierre, though. Yeah, I'm just not going to get into that right now. Yeah, that's a family matter. So.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's a question for fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not for me.
Not for me. Keep that one out of my lane. It's like, no, dude, it's your health, and you're one of the most powerful people in the country right now. So if you are going through something that makes you freeze up mentally, I mean, it's really, if you haven't seen the video from last week, it's on our social media pages. It's scary. But it's like, these are the people running the most powerful country in the history of mankind. We're allowed to ask how they're doing and what they're doing. And someone who's caught fire on this front is Nikki Haley. She is, of course, running for president, former UN ambassador and governor of South Carolina. She has said that she wants a mental acuity test for politicians over 75. Now, here's the thing. I would apply that to all of them. I just think that it's, forget the age thing. I would say for all of them, I want a mental competency test. So, and I don't know why she's catching heat for that. I mean, if there's anything bipartisan in this world anymore, I would like to think that would be it. But for some reason, the geriatric class is like, whoa, what do you think you're doing there, Nikki? Now, what's interesting about Nikki Haley, as we bring her up, a new poll just came down from CNN. Now, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not sitting here telling you that the CNN poll is God's gift or, anything like that. But a CNN poll, which did registered voters, your choice for president if the GOP candidate is ... And it stacks up the main GOP candidates against Joe Biden. And of all the candidates on the GOP side, Nikki Haley is the one who has the biggest lead. The CNN poll has Nikki Haley at 49%, Joe Biden at 43%. Now, it also has Trump beating Biden, 47-46. It's got DeSantis tied with Biden, 47 apiece. Mike Pence, 46-44 over Biden. Tim Scott, 46-44 over Joe Biden. Chris Christie, oh my goodness. Chris Christie in the House, beating Joe Biden, 44-42. Vivek Ramaswamy, the only guy losing to Joe Biden, 46-45. The two takeaways are, one, Nikki Haley having by far the largest lead. I guess there's three takeaways. Nikki Haley with the largest lead, Donald Trump beating Joe Biden in a head-to-head per CNN registered voters. And then the fact that Joe Biden is neck and neck or losing to all of these people, including Chris freaking Christie, like that's the part, too, that you have to look at and say, whoa. That says a lot about where the American electorate is on Joe, almost more so than it says anything about GOP candidates. I mean, bro, when you're losing to Chris Christie, it might be time to hang him up. I'm just throwing that option out there. If you're losing to Chris Christie, woo, boy, oh boy, you got to look in the mirror a little bit. But then also, Nikki Haley up 6. Sheesh. Greg Bennett there. noting the air quality is garbage right now. See it here. The air quality index in Kansas City is at 159 this morning. That places the air quality in the red or unhealthy category, according to airnow.gov. Woo, boy, thanks to those Canadian wildfires. That's why you got to do your controlled burns. Ask California about that. When you don't do the controlled burns, you have these dopey wildfires. I hope the green folks are all happy because now it's even worse than it normally would be if you just did controlled burns.
There's going to be more smoke later on down there at Arrowhead with the barbecue going on.
I was texting with somebody this morning who lives in Georgia, and they said, "You ready for the game tonight?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ready. It's smoky out there. I don't know if it's the barbecues at Arrowhead or the Canadian wildfires, but they already see the smoke coming up around the region." So it's going to be a heck of a night. Looking forward to being out there tonight and seeing how everything plays out. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun, of course. Now, I do have one concern. We talk a lot about, not a lot, but we do spend some time on the wagering in the NFL. And news story says 73.5 million American adults are going to bet on the NFL this season. It's going to be a record number, 28% of the adult population. Gosh, if only we could get 28% of the population to, vote in this country. But we can get 28% to bet on the NFL. That's an increase. Geez, the estimate is a 57% increase from a 2022 survey. That is a huge number. Gosh.
Luckily on Facebook, Missouri has marked itself safe from sports betting.
Very well done. Yeah. Thank you to the Missouri Senate. Way to go, guys. Bunch of geniuses there. Listen, I've been known to place a casual sports bet or two here and there. I've been known to do that. I'm not Parlay Van Sickle in there, Mark the Shark. But, I once in a while, if I feel inclined, I may do a little something. But it does concern me. I don't think we talk enough about how the gambling does have serious negative consequences, societally speaking, with gambling addiction and things like that. And that is something that, unfortunately, I predict is going to explode. Now, at the same time, I don't think the government should be in the business of protecting us from ourselves on something like this, because you can gamble responsibly, just like you can drink responsibly. And I don't believe it's the government's job to protect us from ourselves. Yes, you ban hard drugs because there's nothing good that comes out of certain drugs that are illegal, right? There's zero good that comes out of it. But there can be casual benefits to things that we do allow, whether it's alcohol, whether it is in some states marijuana. Gambling can be something that can be enjoyed socially and responsibly. So I don't think the answer here is the government to necessarily get involved and ban it, per se. But I do think that there's got to be a lot more, first off, admission by these companies that are now making millions of dollars to the downsides of this beyond do you hear the commercials or see the commercials, whether it's radio, TV, social media, the fine print? Legal in blah, 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 blah states and gamble responsibly and, don't bet your life savings in the mortgage and don't lose your family and But it's said at 100 to 1 pace, so no one actually knows what's being said. I wouldn't mind a little more admission from some of these companies that there is a downside to this and there is a nasty side of this when it comes to addiction that does need to be noted. And I'll tell you what, I'm not in this space. I don't know anything about this space. But if I knew how to run rehabs or if I was, a pastor at a church or something like that, I would be very open about what I think is going to be a major spike in gambling addiction over the next decade. And, now that being said, Mark, give us your parlay of the week. Let's go.
Yes, this is my stance is always, if I ever get back to zero from where I started, then I'm just not going to do it anymore.
Okay.
So that's my responsible gambling.
Good for you. Yes, that's how it should be done. Gamble responsibly. So you got You got a $10 bet to win $500 tonight?
That's right.
All right. Give us the rundown, my man.
9 of these 10 legs, there's 10 legs in this thing, hit in week 1 last year.
Okay.
So this is...
just so people know how this works, you have to hit every single one of these. It's not like 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. You got to hit 10 for 10 to win your big payout here. So give me the rundown.
All right, here we go. Chiefs got to win the game.
Okay. Straight up.
Straight up. Chiefs need to score 31 or more points.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes needs to throw for 300 yards or more.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes needs to throw for 3 touchdowns or more.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Pacheco needs to rush for 35 yards or more.
Okay.
Jerick McKinnon needs to rush for 15 yards or more.
All righty.
Jerick McKinnon needs 20 yards receiving or more.
All right.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling needs 25 yards receiving or more.
All right.
Sky Moore needs 30 yards receiving or more. He had exactly 30 in week 1 last year.
Okay.
And the final leg, Justin Ross needs to score a touchdown in his Chiefs regular season debut.
Well, you better hope for a big offensive night there, Mark.
Yeesh.
I'm telling you, that Sky Moore 30 yards, that would scares me. I don't know. Maybe he's going to have a breakout year too, but I got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see Sky Moore having 0 catches tonight. That wouldn't shock me.
That might shock me.
MVS,
just 'cause of their...
Justin Ross become go-to guys. McKinnon, out of the backfield catching. And,
Rashee Rice.
Yeah, Rashee Rice, the rookie at SMU. All right. I'm pulling for you, man. I'll say that much.
No Jordy Fortson this year. So
yeah.
Justin Ross could take that red zone step for him.
All right.
Maybe.
Well, just show up to work tomorrow if you win, okay?
I will.
Don't get crazy on me here. All right. Well, there you go. There's his pick of the week, his parlay of the week. He's got 10 to win $500. All right. Well, so you don't like Mayor Lucas's pick. He said the Chiefs were going to win 23-17. So that's not your cup of tea. That wouldn't help your parlay.
No, I got 38-30.
You got
Chiefs.
38-30.
So I do have them covering. I just didn't put that in my bet.
Okay. So you got them covering. You got 38-30. All right. I'm going to roll tonight. Chiefs 31, Lions 24. What do you got for me, John?
I liken this to the first game in the 2021 season. We played the Browns at home, and they were up and coming, and they thought they were going to do something kind of like Detroit. I'll take the score in that game for this one, 33-29 Chiefs.
33-29. Okay, that's I don't know if that's a lot of field goals or a safety here and there. That's but I'll take it. I like that score, John.
Mm-hmm. We all have them over 30, so that's good for me.
That's good. That's all Mark cares about, baby. That's what's on his rundown today. All right. Well, I haven't even. You know what? I'm going to do this at 9:15. Kansas City Star had maybe the dumbest editorial ever, which is really saying something. The headline was, Kansas City Chiefs fans should have affordable transportation to see the Chiefs at Arrowhead. What do you want? Free buses out to Arrowhead? You want the toy train going out there? I mean, gosh, why don't I just can I get a free meal while I'm there too? I mean, Kansas City Star loves giving away other people's stuff for free, except for their crappy newspaper.
Yeah.
Right? How about the Star starts giving away their newspaper for free? Things are rag anyway.
To go to the game.
Yeah. Gosh, these people are such a joke. My goodness.
At least let us read the website for free.
Yes, yeah. Exactly right. Hypocritical hacks.